Hi and welcome to another episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the unceded land where this conversation takes place, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. There's something genuinely uplifting about sitting down with someone who's spent over 40 years in hospitality and still lights up when they talk about food. That's Darryl Hand. He's been in kitchens since the days of Hilton Melbourne's grand dining rooms in the 80s. He's cooked for queens and rock stars, and he's seen hotel dining evolve from silver service to share plates and open kitchens. But what's most striking is that he still exudes pure, uncomplicated joy when he talks about cooking. Darryl is the executive chef overseeing not one, but two new hotels in the heart of Melbourne, Hotel Indigo and Holiday Inn on Little Collins Street. And yet, he's still the guy who gets excited about discovering a different kind of prawn in Sicily and wishing we could get them here. Hi, Darryl. How are you?
Good.
Now, you were just telling me off mic that you've just got back from Italy, which is very exciting.
Yeah, fantastic. So lots of places, lots of eating, lots of, I should say, drinking as well. But mainly
of course.
Enjoying the food of Italy. So mainly down in Sicily.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it was fantastic. Yeah.
Everyone talks about Sicily, and I haven't been there, but it feels as though Sicily has got its own food culture down there. Yeah,
and the different regions. Like we finished off, started in Catania. So, and there it was a bit of a shock, it's a bit very grungy and all that, but then it opened up and you see the markets. We ate first night, it was the seafood market, but then the restaurants come out.
Oh, yes.
They wash the floors down and then you pull out the tables and you sit there and it's all that fresh fish and all that
Amazing.
sort of stuff. It's sensational.
I know. Was it inspiration to give some?
Yeah, it is. Look, I was thinking they do a lot of these. They're red prawns, and they're raw. You always eat them raw, and I thought, ooh. So I started googling whether we can get them here in Australia.
No.
Unfortunately, we can't.
Because they're quite sweet, aren't they? Those red prawns.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long were you away?
4 weeks.
Okay, so you must have got probably the end of the really warm weather. Was it starting to get a bit cooler?
Yeah, look, it wasn't all in Sicily. We started off in Rome and made our way down, sort of thing, and then detoured into Germany for a week. But then from there was mainly 10 days in Sicily. So Catania, Ragusa, Agrigento, and then finally Palermo.
Okay. So good. I'm really jealous.
It was good. It was good.
I went to the peninsula at the weekend, and that was great.
Yeah.
So we're in Hotel Indigo in Little Collins Street, and it's a dual property. And I did see two doors down below. So it's Holiday Inn and Hotel Indigo. What does that mean?
So there's two actual hotels. So a total of 452 rooms.
Wow.
One kitchen.
Yep.
That services both hotels. So obviously this is Indigo, so we were in a 55-seater restaurant. We've got a courtyard behind us that we could do sit-down dinners for up to about 60 people sort of thing. We just do one long table, so it's quite...
Wow.
It's pretty cool when
Feasting.
they do that. Yeah, it is. So we try and do with those sort of things, a lot of sharing menus and stuff like that. So it makes it's a little bit interactive for the guests instead of, sitting to wait for where they want to swap the chicken and the beef together sort of thing. So it makes that a bit more interesting. And then obviously Holiday Inn, which is next door, is, I think it's about a 100-seat restaurant, 273 rooms, small little function space and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I had a guest come up to me yesterday and said, I heard I've been hearing you calling out service, but I haven't seen food coming out. I said, it's going to the other restaurant.
Oh, so you share a kitchen?
Yeah, so we share one kitchen. So the kitchen is an open kitchen that faces into Holiday Inn. But then, so we have two printers, one for Holiday Inn and then obviously Indigo, which is full a la carte for breakfast and then obviously a la carte for lunch and dinner. So so one food goes one way for Holiday Inn and the other way for Indigo.
Same menu?
No, different menus.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Have you worked in a situation like that before?
Look, I've worked in a few venue, but obviously they've had separate kitchens.
Yes.
So we try and match up a few ingredients here and there, so we're not holding lots of stock and we don't have that sort of wastage and spoilage. But obviously Indigo, we try and give it its own identity. and then obviously try and tell that story of Melbourne, whereas Holiday Inn is more of a cookie cutter sort of menu that is, globally what Holiday Inn you expect to find in a Holiday Inn.
But one team?
One team.
There must be such an amazing choreography in the kitchen, and how does it?
It works well.
Okay.
So at the moment, I'll probably refer more to breakfast at this stage, because breakfast is the one that's, is doing 140 in here for breakfast and 200 in next door. So that's next door's a buffet, but they can order eggs and omelettes in it to order, and then here is full a la carte.
Okay.
And then obviously for dinner, it's that's your fish and chips and your burgers and your pasta, and this is. We try and have a little bit more of a play with the food and make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more Melbourne, or if you want to say what Melbourne has to offer, which is quite global.
Yeah, so give me some examples of that on the menu at Hotel Indigo.
So Indigo, we do a cured salmon that we cure the salmon from. So we use the Little Lon, which is a distillery in the top end of the city. So they've got a gin called Miss Yoko, which ties into it, has flavours of lychee and stuff like that. So we use some of that into the curing of the salmon, and then we've made just a simple salsa with the lychee and pear and chilli and mint and so forth like that. So that's a nice one that goes through. We pay homage. At one stage there was a pie shop. They used to make Scotch pies, last century sort of thing here. So we've put a pie on. So we actually used the pies from Wonder Pie, Raymond Cabaldi, and then we just try and give that little bit more of a feel instead of just a meat pie and mashed potato. It's got some peas and speck and some confit shallots and things like that. So again, we're just trying to reflect on and tell that story of the past with that sort of stuff. So so there's a few bits and pieces like that. And then we've got a small little Asian element with some canopies and so forth, which we'll try and tie in Little Burke Street and all those sorts of areas as well. So
that's nice.
It's not really a mishmash, but it works in quite well. It's the canopies are the dumplings and a prawn toast that we do and things like that.
Delicious.
The duck dish that we've now tried to make as our signature dish has those sort of slight Asian overtones, but a little bit of, if you want to say, French with it. So we use a duck breast, and it's flavoured with honey and star anise, and and some orange, and then do some nice confit duck leg croquettes with it. So so it's proving to be quite good.
So good. How long has it been open?
Mid-September.
Okay. Oh, so it's pretty new. Yeah, and you're getting people through, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's doing quite well.
Yeah.
It's, like obviously our sales and marketing team do a fantastic job in getting the word out and things like that. So, look, it's doing well. Like obviously like everyone, we want to be busier, but it'll come. It'll definitely come. It's a beautiful space.
Oh, it's such a beautiful space. Actually, even just walking in past all that, round the curve of gold.
Yes.
I'm a sucker for that kind of grand entrance, and it's kind of mysterious. So I didn't really know where I was going, and then there's the elevator, and you arrive up here.
And even the print inside the elevator has got the laneway scenes and stuff like that. So we've also got a dessert that we call our graffiti brick. So Melbourne has graffiti and all that sort of stuff, and so we've done a chef that I worked with before, helped us come up with a dessert. So it's basically what we think Melbourne. It's a brick shape.
Yeah.
And Melbourne's coffee. So it's got a coffee financier, then a white coffee cream, and then it has that Asian element of the yuzu jam in the middle.
That's so clever.
And then we've done created a tulle brick wall. And then we have the splash of the different sort of colours that should represent then all the colours of the graffiti. So
did you come up with that?
Yeah, that was one that
I
So it's just those sort of things you see, you get inspired, whether it be from Instagram or dining in other places. I thought, I could do that, but if I do this, and stuff like that. So
Because coming in here, I had all these questions around, and one of them was, as you mentioned, maybe next door is a bit more cookie cutter because, you've got to do what the other Holiday Inns are doing.
Yeah.
And I wondered, as a hotel chef, whether you get to have much creative input, but you clearly do, which is...
Yes, I like the beauty of
great.
We can, when I was in recruiting and all that sort of stuff, all the people would say, "Oh, I just want to work in Indigo." So like, it was always going to be the hard one. No one wants to just cook burgers all day or whatever. They all want to do the fancy food. So I said, not a problem. So it works out that I don't have those fights because they've got to do it all. But and they love the balance too. They love the fact that they can do some, simple. And it's not, I say cookie cutter, but we try to do a little bit different sort of thing than the normal sort of.
Still got to have a good burger. It's got to be a good burger, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. So so that's we try to make it a little bit interesting on both sides.
Because the other part of my question was not wanting to bandy numbers around, but after 40 years in the industry, ish. What excites you about coming to work? And I can see you are really excited talking about dishes and so on.
I like the creative side of it, and over my journey I've worked with some really creative people, and some of my apprentices that I've worked with over the years I keep in touch with, and and I'll ring them and how did we do that, and get inspiration, because these guys are obviously they're pretty cool with what they do. So you get inspiration from them, and it's just a matter of like we dine out a fair bit and just get an idea. And I just like what goes on, whether it be from my recent trip to Italy or whatever. So, but it's and something very simple can excite you in that respect. So
that's good, I think, because you want. I mean, I've got this idea that I've brought up in the past about, I read this book called like Water for Chocolate, and it was about a woman that every time she made a dish, her emotions went into the dish, and then the people that ate them felt that. And so then I like to think the chefs are still enjoying coming to work and making the food.
I like to think that, my end goal is to have that feeling that people are coming to Indigo, not just for the hotel, but because they want to come for whether my food or the team's food sort of thing. And that's the big plus for us, that we want to get that recognition that you have to come to Fern Bar and Dining because the duck is fantastic, or the brick wall is really really different, and something like that. So you know what I mean. So that's what I want. And if we ever take it off the menu, we got people going, put it back on. So. And saying that, we're not going to take that one off. But
no idea. I want to come in. It sounds amazing. And so you started in hotels in the 80s, and I'm allowed to say, at the Hilton. And you've been in a lot of hotels, but back then in the 80s, what was hospitality like in Melbourne?
Look, it was it was a little bit stricter in what it was. Hilton was like really opened my eyes. It was what you read of in books of these grand sort of hotels. Where it had. You walked in the morning, the bakers were working overnight, so you smelt the croissant and the pastries and coffee. It was a lot of percolated coffee back in those days, sort of thing, so that you could smell the coffee coming in. The structure with the senior chefs was really strict. If you were sick, they'd cancel your leave, or so it was probably not very good on a HR sort of level, but it was good. It teaches us some disciplines. And I enjoyed the fact that I worked at the Hilton back then. It was probably one of the big hotels. It was pre-Crown and all that sort of stuff. So they used to do a lot of the big shows, cabaret shows and things like that as well. So, I met Tina Turner there through that sort of thing, just as she became big again. And it was just for the fact that she walked through the banquet kitchen at that stage. So it was interesting. You saw, and Hilton at that stage was probably the only hotel that they had security, so a lot more of the celebrities would stay there. And back in the day of Culture Club and Wham and all that sort of stuff. So it was,
and some royalty as well.
Not so much there, what I can remember. We used to do a little bit of that in the early days. I did 2 stints at the Art Centre.
Oh yes, that's right.
And my first stint was when I worked with some talented people there, and we did some functions for. We did the food for Queen Elizabeth. She came down and she was on. There was a ferry, a Sydney ferry, based in Melbourne called the South Stein. So she was on there for a cocktail party, and we did the food for it. Yeah, and then the executive chef and one of the other chefs went on board and served it. So I can say that I'd made a canopy.
Oh, but you didn't give it to her, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't give it to her at all or anything like that. So you used to do, and again, that was pre-Crown, so you used to do all the big state dinners and things like that. You know, we cooked for Margaret Thatcher. I think we did Queen Beatrix of Holland and all that sort of stuff. So it was pretty, that was pretty cool.
So you really have to be working in certain venues to have that opportunity, because those kind of people don't go just anywhere, do they?
No. And I suppose back then, you know, they were pretty well strictly to the hotels or the big places and stuff like that.
It's fascinating. And when you started at the Hilton, was that part of an apprenticeship, or did you?
No, I'd finished. I actually did my apprenticeship at Queen Victoria Medical Centre.
Oh.
Which was, you know, the QV
building.
Sure. So I did my apprenticeship there. I started there when I was...
What, was there a cafeteria or...?
No, it was the hospital.
Oh, the hospital. Okay.
Yeah, so it was for...
I'm not from here.
So it was a, well, I don't know how many bed hospital, but it was for all the staff and patients and so forth like that. And as a 16-year-old, it was probably a little bit easier to have that sort of... It wasn't as many nights and things like that. A night shift was classes, you'd finish at 6 p.m. So, but then, you know, after that, you get a bit bored of, you know, hospital food, if you want to say. So that's when I went into, worked at Hilton.
Okay, I see. Wow. And I read that that you used to love making Anzac biscuits with your mum. It's like, did you, 16 is young, so did you always know I wanted a career in food? Yeah,
look, I always, you know, I said that I always make the Anzac. I'd eat the raw mixture more than what I...
It's the best.
Yeah, it is. So it's better than the baked one, or you'd have to eat them as soon as they come out of the oven.
Yeah.
And I probably would do that. It was the only thing that I used to cook back then. But Mum's always, you know, she's been a good cook and stuff like that. So I'd make the Anzac biscuits and took an interest in it, you know, from there. So, and then obviously I wanted to, pursue cooking.
Yeah. And you've been in all these very large venues. Do you have, in those kinds of big places, are there mentors, or is it more you just have to kind of have your wits about you and observe so that you can go up the ranks?
Look, there's obviously, I remember at the Hilton, the chef, Patrick Biddlecombe would always say that what he did, he would spend time in a hotel and then move to another country, obviously based in Europe, which he was an English guy, and then he'd work in a different section. So he gave us that, he mentored us into the extent that we should do that. If we're not going to travel overseas and you want to stay in Melbourne, but then you should go and work at, well, as it was, I worked in a couple of different areas at the Hilton, but then maybe go to another hotel and then work in that section. Then you see what they're doing, you look at the good, the bad and all that sort of stuff, and you take that on board. So the good is what you want, but it's also you want to have a good understanding of the bad, so not to do that sort of thing.
That's right.
So there was, I worked with at the Art Centre a chef called Andrew Ormsby, who's now does, I think he's doing some stuff been in the States for probably the last 20 or 30 years sort of thing. And he was great, he was firm and hard, but he was also, pretty fair, and he showed us along. I worked with David Gilligan, who was, I think he was highly regarded back in the 80s and all that sort of stuff. I don't know what he's doing now, but so the Art Centre probably more. I work with some really good people. I worked with Andrew Blake at Stokehouse in St Kilda, and he was good to work with, and when I do see him, it's hi, how are you, and all that sort of stuff. So we have some friendly banter sort of thing, but so there's people out there, and as I said before, even people that you've worked or you employed. I have a chef that I work. He's now the chef at Captain Jack's down on the Mornington Peninsula. But he worked with me at a few places, then he worked at Point Leo Estate and all that sort of stuff. So he's worked at some good places, and I learned from him as much as I hope that I've taught him, sort of thing. So,
And you're in a couple of pubs as well, the London and Albert Park Hotel?
there was a stage where TUI's wanted to get a foothold into the Victorian market, so they bought 47 Icon hotels.
Wow.
So I looked after, I opened the Albert Park Hotel, and then I took on the person that had the portfolio, which was mainly more food-based hotels. So I ended up taking over the London, and then I became the regional chef. So I looked after the Albert Park, the London, the Provincial in Brunswick Street, the Greville, and also the Imperial in Chapel Street. That was more like fries and stuff. But other than that, here was So that was great. So I worked with some good people there from the kitchen side, and then but obviously from a front of house management side as well.
Yeah. Pretty varied. The theme does seem to be maybe hotels. Just coming back to Indigo and Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
What's are you? So you're is the chef that's overseeing everything. Are you here? You know, how long pre-opening to get that running?
I started in March.
Oh wow! Okay, a long time.
So and then we just built it up and organised from the plateware to the glassware to the food and to everything, to put all the everything into play, to recruiting all the team and things like that. So and then we moved in downstairs in, I think it was June, when we were able to get in. Then slowly we're able to. Then when all the staff came in, all the equipment came in, and so I was good. What was that, 6 months prior?
Wow. Yeah. It must feel like it's yours.
Well, look, and as someone said, within the organisation, and they said, we will go down in history. We are the first. We are the original people to open this hotel, and when you kind of look at it, you go, wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's something that we can say that down the future. That I opened that hotel, and I think it's pretty special.
Yeah, no, that's right. And you were saying that you love the creativity of it, and you're really inspired by eating out or things you see online, and I guess back in the day cookbooks. How do you keep those ideas? Do you have your own notebooks? Or
I was quite. I used to have a series of notebooks, probably not so much these days. It's probably more, I'll take photos on your phone and things like that. Yeah. So, I think there's like 90,000 photos on my phone, not all on food. But it'll be a bit. I am one of those people that takes. If I go out, I'll take a photo of it and all that sort of stuff, just so.
That's good though. Good that chefs are doing that too.
Yeah, just so that you can have it reminds you sometimes, and when it comes to writing a menu, not that I want to go and just copy what someone else has done, but it's that sort of inspiration where you could do something and change it up or whatever. I think that's quite good.
Yeah. So it'll be a seasonal menu here?
Yeah, pretty well much. We normally will change every season. Because we've just recently opened and we've done a couple of tweaks, we might miss the summer one, which the menu's still quite light, that fits into that sort of spring, summer, and then look at do a bigger change when it comes to autumn. So we'll do a small little tweak soon. We've identified some dishes that probably aren't moving as well or whatever, and it might be just in the wording, or just something simple. We do a prawn salad in Holiday Inn with rizzini, and whether the rizzini is the thing that's putting people off, so we might just go back and bring back the old classic of a prawn cocktail, but with a nice twist. And I think from that you'd probably go it would move on.
Yeah.
Do
you I guess with all the experience you've had, you can't take those things to heart. But are you disappointed sometimes if you have an idea and it doesn't work?
Yeah. It's like everything. It's sensational up here.
Of course.
And then when you put it on the plane, go, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's hard because you kind of feel committed to that dish.
Yeah, that's right.
And stuff like that. But then, but the beauty is that we can quite easily change things.
Yeah. And do you do room service here as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, From the menu, or?
Yeah, but it's mainly more from Holiday Inn.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, I think when people are eating in their rooms, they probably want that comfort food, don't they?
Exactly. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
In saying that, if we had a guest that came in here and said, "Can I get a burger?" Yeah, we can do one. It's easy.
Oh, okay.
It's not a problem, because we
go next door.
Yeah, no, we're not going. Well, see, you can't. Well, we can open the door, but you don't want to send them back down the ground floor, walk down the corridor.
No.
Go that way.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. So we can do that. Because every now and again, you just feel like a burger.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And probably for travellers, for sure, they just need something. Yeah, that's right. Wow. And do you have any sense of are people staying for just a couple of nights, or is it longer, or?
Look, we've had a few people that have stayed for a couple of weeks, and you see those people coming through, and we get to the stage where they might get sick of the menu after if they dine in a fair bit, but we're willing to if you give me 24 hours notice and you want something that's not on the menu, if we can get it in, we'll do it for you, and do something. If you want just the old bangers and mash sort of thing, the old thing, I have no qualm.
But amazing that they are eating here multiple times when there are lots of other restaurants to go to.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah. Look, we would still, obviously, breakfast is different.
Of course.
Higher. If you're staying 3 or 4 nights, you might eat once or whatever. I would, generally, if when we travel and we're staying in a hotel or whatever, we'll try the restaurants. But then we might, you go and explore sort of things as well.
Well, so it's funny because I often have this wrong impression, going on your hotels and things, but when I've been overseas, sometimes the food in the restaurants in the hotel can be expensive and not great, or not very inspiring. And I was in Amsterdam last year, and I made that assumption and then tried to find places. I mean, obviously I didn't really research it that much because there's plenty of great places in Amsterdam, but the place where I stayed was called Pension Homeland, and it was actually a converted officers' quarters over in the marine kind of what used to be the marine, and they had a brewery attached to it, and they had this restaurant, and the food was amazing. So one night I was just like, I'm just going to try this, and then I just didn't go out anywhere again because it was so delicious.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends, doesn't it, on
it does
on the hotel, if there's a bit of independence there, and who's in the kitchen.
Yeah. But look, I think hotels was always that case where you're thinking, well, all you're going to get there is a club sandwich. So I think that they're changing. There's the hotels that are coming into town at the moment. There's some pretty interesting sort of food happening. It's not just your normal. I think when I started at Hilton back in those days, everyone would start off in the gallery. It's nasi goreng, it's a hamburger, it's chef salad. So it's all, and it was pretty well stale sort of stuff. So I don't think I've seen nasi goreng since I left the Hilton back in.
No, I wouldn't have even thought of that. But wow, amazing. Well, I guess with all that in mind, your experience over time in different places, what would your advice be to a young person starting out?
Look, I suppose you've got to love it. You got to. You can't come in. Some of the young guys over the time have come in and they don't realise it's 365 days a year. When your friends are down the beach on a Saturday or a Sunday and you're working, it's a different sort of lifestyle. I really think if you really love cooking and doing that sort of stuff at home, do it. It's great. You can travel. It really brings out that creativity side for people and all that sort of stuff. I think it's a fantastic industry. I've enjoyed my time. I've met some really fantastic people over the time. And I still stay close to it, and I keep in contact with all my chefs that I work with, or even from managers and things like that I've reported into. I just think it's a good opportunity.
I think you have to be a people person.
Yeah, you do a little bit.
Because you seem very approachable and calm. Is it like that in the kitchen as well?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I am. every now and again you have to just show a little bit of urgency, but it's not by yelling at all or anything like that, because in the end it doesn't achieve anything.
No.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, and we're in an open kitchen, and we don't do dinner shows.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, how good.
Look, I try and look after the team. I'll give them the days off that they want. We try and structure our roster so that you're off certain days that you want. I'm more than happy, and I think through that we have virtually, zero sick leave. Obviously we're brand new at the moment, so we've had no turnover as such.
Yeah.
But and I think that way works. If you show a bit of interest, say good morning, thanks for today, those sort of little bits and pieces. You do find that they adopt that sort of mindset as well, and then and it's reflective in what we're trying to serve.
Yeah.
Nice. But if you're a little bit over the top and staff are scared when you walk through, I don't think it's a good recipe for success. So it might have worked back in the 80s.
No, that's right. It doesn't fly.
I don't think it happens now.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of scarred people from the 80s.
So it would be exactly.
And just on a final note, I did read that your two favourite ingredients are sea salt flakes and good quality olive oil.
Yeah.
What do you do with those?
Well, I think they enhance things. A little bit of salt here and all that sort of stuff, and obviously extra virgin olive oil. I did, instead of bringing wine home, I did bring extra virgin olive oil. I think good quality ingredients, whether from salt or extra virgin, can just liven up a dish. You don't need a dressing or put a vinegar to something if it's a good quality sort of oil.
Yeah. Thank you.
Not a problem.
I can't wait to come, and I'm going to have the salmon, then the duck, then the graffiti brick, and I can't wait.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Darryl.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Darryl Hand from Hotel Indigo and Holiday Inn on Little Collins Street. You can check out all the goodness on Instagram at Melbourne Hotel Indigo and at Fern _bar _dining, which is the dining room in Hotel Indigo. Better still, get into the city and taste it all for yourself. If you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm also on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. You can read this chat online at www.conversationwithachef.com, and of course you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. If you are willing to overlook the amateurness of my newfound love for videoing my podcasts, I forgot to turn the light on this time, you can check me out on YouTube as well, under Conversation with a Chef. I would absolutely love it if you told a friend about my chats. I still think it's the best way to get these delicious stories out into the world. Once again, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and bon appétit.